At 3 o'clock in the morning, when most Formula One drivers are asleep, Max Verstappen is still racing, not on a Grand Prix circuit, but in a virtual one. The glow of screens replaces floodlights. The hum of a simulator replaces the scream of an F1 engine. And while critics once called this reckless, Toto Wolff called it something else entirely: an advantage. Because in 2026, Formula One will no longer reward only the fastest driver. It will reward the smartest one. Formula One is standing on the edge of the most dramatic transformation the sport has ever faced. The 2026 regulations are not a tweak, not an evolution, and not a refinement of what already exists. They are a complete reset. New engines built on a radically different philosophy. A new balance between combustion and electric power. New aerodynamics that actively change how the car behaves. And, most importantly, new decision-making demands placed directly on the driver. Every lap, every corner, every straight, all of it arrives at once, with no gradual adjustment period. This is the kind of change that does not just shuffle the grid. It erases hierarchies entirely and exposes weaknesses that were previously hidden by experience, muscle memory, or legacy advantage. Quietly, away from press conferences and podiums, team principals are converging on the same realization. The drivers who thrive in this new era may not be the ones who learned everything exclusively on track, lap after lap, in familiar machinery. They may be the ones who learned how to think under pressure, in unfamiliar conditions, where systems change constantly, margins are razor-thin, and decisions must be made instantly without relying on instinct alone. This is not a story about gaming. This is a story about preparation for a future that is arriving faster than anyone expected. Max Verstappen's sim racing journey did not begin as a hobby. It began as competition. In 2015, while still racing for Toro Rosso, he officially joined Team Redline. The connection came through Atze Kirchhoff, who immediately noticed something different. Where other drivers treated simulators as tools, something to be tolerated, Verstappen treated them as races that mattered. Every lap was pushed, every mistake was punished, every advantage was hunted. Over the next decade, that mentality turned him into one of the most feared sim racers on the planet. By 2024, Verstappen achieved something unprecedented, winning all three of iRacing's most prestigious 24-hour endurance events in a single year: Daytona, Nürburgring, and Spa. But the Nürburgring victory stood apart. Verstappen drove a brutal night stint on Saturday, slept for a few hours, then woke up and won the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix on Sunday. 2 victories, 2 machines, 2 realities, less than a day apart. This is the moment where you should pause, because this is not obsession. This is what elite preparation looks like when no one is watching. His dedication goes deeper than the headlines suggest. Verstappen has admitted that when setup ideas come to him in the middle of the night, he gets up and tests them immediately. Waiting feels wrong. When he moved apartments, the sim rig was installed first. Furniture came later. The rig travels with him. It is shipped to race locations. Between practice sessions, he is still racing. And all of this suddenly matters because of what arrives in 2026. The upcoming regulations represent the most radical technical overhaul Formula One has ever attempted in a single season. Historically, rule changes affect either the engine or the chassis, rarely both. In 2026, everything changes simultaneously. The power split alone tells the story. Today's cars rely on roughly 80% combustion power and 20% electric. In 2026, that becomes 50-50. Combustion output drops dramatically, while electrical power nearly triples. That means something fundamental changes. Speed is no longer just about throttle, it is about judgment. Fuel loads drop by 30%. Cars shrink in size and weight. Active aerodynamics replace DRS. Front and rear wings adjust dynamically. A new overtake mode rewards drivers who stay within 1 second of the car ahead. But the biggest change happens inside the cockpit. Drivers will manage battery deployment manually, every lap, in real time, deciding where to attack, where to defend, and where to sacrifice lap time for later gain. If you're still watching, this is where the future of Formula One becomes clear, because racing is about to turn into high-speed strategy. Toto Wolff describes it as a chess match at full throttle. With half the power coming from electricity, running out of energy at the wrong moment makes you defenseless. Having surplus energy turns impossible overtakes into sudden opportunities. This is why Wolff believes drivers like Verstappen and George Russell hold an advantage. They already think this way. Helmut Marko agrees. The driver must be fast and clever at the same time. When everyone else is overloaded with new information, the one who can process and adapt instantly separates himself. Science backs this up. Professional motion simulators reach nearly 90% real-world equivalency, not just in vehicle behavior, but in cognitive demand. Decision-making transfers directly. Verstappen himself rates sim accuracy at 90 to 95%. The missing piece is G-force. The thinking is identical. Professional sim racers describe his adaptation speed as unmatched. Different cars, different tracks, different conditions, sometimes daily. That constant exposure builds a mental elasticity that shows itself when Verstappen arrives at a new circuit and immediately operates at a level others need an entire weekend to reach. Now consider Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton has never hidden his discomfort with simulators. He runs minimal laps each year. He finds the experience disorienting. The brain senses movement the body does not feel. Curbs feel wrong. Speed feels artificial. The disconnect bothers him enough that he avoids simulation almost entirely. 7 world championships prove this philosophy worked brilliantly for the era it belonged to. But 2026 demands something new. When every lap requires real-time energy decisions, the driver who has practiced those scenarios thousands of times in virtual endurance races carries a unique advantage. Experience alone cannot replicate that preparation. Red Bull's powertrain leadership sees this clearly. Extracting lap time from the 2026 engine requires drivers who understand systems, not just speed. When Verstappen visited Red Bull powertrains, engineers noticed the depth of his questions. Not about horsepower, but about interaction. History tells us what comes next. In 2014, turbo-hybrid engines reshaped Formula One overnight. Mercedes dominated instantly. In 2022, ground effect regulations flipped the grid again, launching Red Bull forward while Mercedes struggled. And 2026 is bigger than both. New engines, new fuels, new tires, new cars, new rules. Everyone starts from zero. Adaptability becomes the deciding factor. For nearly 10 years, Max Verstappen trained for a future he did not know was coming. Thousands of hours, endless races, constant pressure, decisions made at speed, with consequences. All of it building a mental framework perfectly suited for what Formula One is about to become. When Verstappen won the virtual Nürburgring 24 hours and the Imola Grand Prix in the same weekend, Christian Horner summarized it simply. Max won 2 races that day, one in a BMW, one in a Formula One car. In 2026, those 2 worlds stop being separate. The skills transfer, the thinking overlaps, the preparation finally counts where it matters most. Formula One's next era will not just reward bravery or instinct. It will reward foresight, adaptability, and the ability to think clearly while driving at the absolute limit. And when the lights go out on the first race of that new era, one driver will not be adjusting. He will not be learning. He will not be reacting. He will be doing what he has always done. Racing, already prepared for a future everyone else is only just beginning to understand.